Why don't we give them this time? This is a reference.
Councilman Ambrosino,
Okay.
right. So, all right. So my question. That was my question. Am I allowed to hand them in, or do I say their name for? Okay.
Myself and they haven't really this is what
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to this regularly scheduled town board meeting. For those of you who have never attended a town board meeting before, there are meeting agendas available in the rear of the pavilion. If you'd like to be heard on any matters, you can get a slip from our clerks who are available in the front of or in the rear of the pavilion, and fill out a slip, indicate what you'd like to be heard on, and we will call you up. After the meeting is adjourned, the town board will honor our custom of 350 years and remain in session to hear members of the public who want to be heard on any other matters. This is a civilized town board meeting. We will not tolerate hooliganism and calling out and catcalling from the audience. If you call out and are disruptive, you will be warned once. If you do it a second time, you will be asked to leave the board meeting. Madam Clerk, will you please now call the roll?
Councilman Ambrosino. Here. Councilman Blakeman. Here. Councilman D'Esposito.
I am here.
Councilman Dunn. Here. Councilwoman King Sweeney. Here. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Here.
Supervisor Gillen.
Here. I now ask Councilwoman King Sweeney to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Liberty and justice, that's it.
Madam Clerk, will you please call our first public hearing?
Petition of Commissioner of Buildings to demolish and remove a one-story wood frame, one-family dwelling with detached garage and remove all litter and debris from the property in Elmont.
I do not have any slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to be heard? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Move the public hearing be closed, petition adopted. Second.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Ambrosino. Aye. Councilman Blakeman. Aye. Councilman D'Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn. Aye. Councilwoman King Sweeney. Aye. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Aye. Supervisor Gillen.
Aye. Madam Clerk, please call our next public hearing.
Petition of Commissioner of Buildings to demolish and remove a one-story wood frame, one-family dwelling and remove all litter and debris from the property near Island Park.
I do not have any slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to be heard? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
I move that the public hearing be closed and the petition granted.
Madam Clerk?
Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Blakeman. Aye. Councilman D'Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn. Councilwoman King Sweeney. Aye. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Aye. Supervisor Gillen.
Aye. Madam Clerk, please call our next public hearing.
Petition of Commissioner of Buildings to demolish and remove a two-story wood frame, one-family dwelling with detached garage and remove all litter and debris from the property in West Hempstead.
I have a slip from Dr. Ray Areen Havase.
Good morning.
Good morning. If you would please just state your name and address for the record.
Ray Ann Havasey. My organization is 1450 Tanglewood Road, Lakeview. Good morning. For 4 years, I've been trying to buy this house. It's located in Lakeview, where my organization is located. I did the same with another house in Lakeview and renovated it. And what I do with it is my staff, mostly millennials, hard to live on Long Island, is I give housing to my staff of my organization. So it turns out to be a win-win. The house gets renovated and my staff gets to afford to stay on Long Island so we don't have more of a brain drain. So this house appeals to me because it's on the bus line that goes directly to my organization. For 4 years, I've tracked it down through Goldman Sachs, another bank, MTQL, whatever, to Rushmore Loans, to the attorney in Westchester, to no avail. I called the district court, and the district court, here's what they told me. Ma'am, if you're interested in this house, you have to go to district court every Tuesday at 9:30 a.m. and hope that it comes up for auction. Well, how long do I have to do this? Maybe 2-3 years. If we want to do something about zombie homes, We have to make it easier to buy them. I know the town's trying to do a lot to destroy them, which is a good thing, you know, raise them. So I'm asking you for an extension on this because I'm going to get even more persistent. I've hired an attorney to try and track down this house. I'd like to renovate it. It's doable. It's not a lost cause. So I'm just asking for an extension.
Commissioner, could you please come forward? Is this structure, has it been deemed unsafe? What's the status of the structure?
I'd like to ask questions of the young lady first. Since this is in Lakeview, which is in my district, are you planning to use this as a rooming house? You're saying you're putting your staff there. How many people do you expect to live in it?
We put 2. Councilwoman Gooseby, this is the Science Center. I know you're familiar with it. You've been there. We do science education. So yeah, we have 2 staff members in the other house. These are single people. They're young people, so they're single, and that's what we would like to do.
Okay, Commissioner, thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Supervisor, members of Town Board. Yeah, this house has been basically vacant since 2013. It is in poor shape. However, we can give her some time to move forward, but as she stated, it could take 2 more years before they can actually purchase this home. Right? I mean, so that's the problem.
You try, but it has a new roof. It has some other new things on it, so it's not, I don't think, you know better than I, but I don't think it's a lost cause.
Mr. Haber, are you here? If you would just please come forward for a minute. You know, I had a community town hall meeting last night, and the issue of vacant and abandoned and zombie homes was something that came up at that board meeting. Previously, I'd put forward a resolution. It's item number 123 from the town board agenda dated August 7, 2018, that related to a foreclosure registry to try to address some of the problems that you just discussed. Mr. Haber, Commissioner, thank you for answering that question. Mr. Haber, if you would just speak to a minute about how the foreclosure registry might address some of the obstacles that this lady has had in terms of trying to purchase this home in foreclosure.
So a foreclosure registry, which they already have one in Babylon Town and Babylon Village, and it's working quite well, will create a dashboard of homes that in the town are in various states of foreclosure or vacant. And the town would know who the point of contact is, who to reach out to in case there's an issue, what bank is servicing it, because what ends up happening when a home goes in foreclosure is they trade the servicing and the bank sells it, and the bank sells it, and they saw in 2008 when the crisis happened and the Great Recession happened, nobody knew who to reach out to, like you're having a problem with right now, who to contact. And that's the purpose of the foreclosure registry. And on top of that, it would generate probably over $4 million for the town, which they could help use to raise homes, that are vacant or help people who are having issues. So it would be a win-win. There's really very, very little issues or things the town would have to do. They would just basically collect checks and have a dashboard and actually free up some employees to do other work. So it would be a win on both sides.
Thank you.
That would be marvelous because there are so many of us that are willing to rejuvenate these homes. We just can't seem to figure out how to buy them. I mean, it's just a daunting process.
Right, and the longer they're tied up in foreclosure, which from my time as an attorney can be quite some time. So at this time, just you happen to be here, I'd like to ask my colleagues on the town board to reconsider item number 123 from being tabled, and I'd like you to reconsider adding it to the agenda. I think this resolution would create a foreclosure registry which would assist the residents in the town of Hempstead, establishing a list of properties that are in the foreclosure process in our town so we can mitigate potential issues with those properties. The monies that would be generated by the revenue would go towards enforcement enhancement in our building department. And we could use it to help provide guidance to residents on how to connect with the proper agencies or groups that can help them and assist them with the foreclosure sale process. 7 other municipalities, since I have raised the foreclosure registry, 7 other municipalities have either adopted or are in the process of adopting a foreclosure registry because of the value that they bring to the enforcement and resident education programming. I think it makes sense. I think we should reconsider it. I think we should vote on it. The places who have adopted or in the process of adopting a foreclosure registry since we first raised it here in the town of Hempstead are the Village of Babylon, the town of Babylon, the town of North Hempstead, the town of Oyster Bay, the town of Riverhead, the town of Southampton, and the city of Long Beach. So I do ask my colleagues if you would give some thought. I'd be happy to discuss it with you going forward, but I'd like you to reconsider maybe pulling that from being tabled indefinitely.
Madam Supervisor, notwithstanding the infomercial on the foreclosure registry, we've done detailed analysis on it. This is a one-sided discussion. It's fraught with a lot of issues that are not germane before us. So I think I appreciate Mr. Haber's input and your input. It's not the panacea it's made out to be. There's a lot of issues with it, which are germane for a topic at another time, but it is not what it's laid out to be.
All I'm asking is for a discussion with my colleagues on the town board.
That would be very nice if you had talked to us about it before, discussed it. I didn't know anything about you do these things without letting us know. And it would be wonderful if you have, because it's something that we could consider, but we have to take it now. I agree with the councilman.
Excuse me,
What we have to
Councilwoman
do.
Gooseby, who I have the most respect for. I'm sorry, I have to get to work, so can we vote on the matter at hand?
Well, listen,
which is
we
the
have-
house on 11 Sanatelli's?
Wait a minute, there may be people in the audience who also wish to be heard, okay? From Lakeview. That's right. Wait, excuse me, first of all, did you turn in a slip?
She did. I just got a slip for you. You're okay, Fatima? Yes.
Fatima?
I apologize, I was very late this morning.
That's okay, you're here.
Did the bank arrive? Is there any representative from the bank?
Okay.
Yes. It appears we have a bank representative right here. Mr. Haber, thank you.
I don't know if any of you saw an article that was posted in the Herald, and it was called The Tale of Two Abandoned Homes. I live on a block, Scanny Atlas Avenue. My name is Kay Fatima. I have a firm called Catherine Marshall and Associates. What we do is community liaison and deal with issues in our community, try to, one, improve it and be advocacy for the community and individuals. I have 6 abandoned homes on my block, very short block. This property has been abandoned since 2009. Can you please tell the council when it went into foreclosure?
I believe 2011.
Okay. Has the property owner ever been found?
No, and actually I am here representing the bank, requesting as well. We want another 30 days so the bank does have the opportunity to evaluate this property and secure and to fix any issues there may be. So we are here to help and to make sure that this property is secured.
So the answer or the question is to the town, because the town has been there so many times. If you look, you will find so many violations. The grass has been allowed to grow. At one time, we measured almost 5 feet tall. My property values are going down, and we're planning lawsuits. I have some of them prepared here to sue your company, because I believe there is something called, that I'm going to propose, it's called endangering the welfare of a community, contributing to the demise of a community. Your negligence caused my house to go from $500,000, excuse me for being very stern about this matter, to go below almost $300,000 in the $200,000 range.
Well, that's why
So
I'm here.
the amount that I own, that I, let's say, maybe borrowed from it, I'm now underwater. And when people get underwater, like that homeowner probably did, okay, they walked away. So this secular effect, this systemic effect, will have to stop, and it'll have to stop with the banks.
Councilman Gooseby,
Yes.
do you mind if I ask a question with regard to this?
Go right ahead.
So my question to the bank is, you started the foreclosure in 2011. We're now in 2019. Why wouldn't an extension change anything? You've had 8 years to address the issues with respect to this house,
My client wasn't, I'm sorry.
and nothing's been done.
My client was just put on notice that this town board meeting was being held, so.
But your client's had a foreclosure going on this for 8 years. They didn't have notice of all the problems. This poor woman and others in the neighborhood have had to endure a situation
that is really untenable. And if the bank had addressed it and took ownership of the property, if they wanted to foreclose on the property, they have to take responsibility for it. And once they take responsibility for it, they have to make sure that it's clean and safe, or they should sell it. I don't understand.
Well, my client can't sell the property yet because the foreclosure action is not completed, so they don't have a judgment. So my client is not the owner of the property. So until the foreclosure action is completed through the court system, we can't sell the
But
property.
if they have been in foreclosure,
Has the summons and complaint been filed in Supreme Court?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Has a referee's deed been executed
No,
yet?
it hasn't.
So what, has the judge said the judgment?
It hasn't yet. The judgment hasn't been filed yet, so my client doesn't have the opportunity to sell.
When was the complaint filed? What
I
year?
don't have the exact dates in front of me now.
What is your title represent, and what bank are you representing?
I'm representing Rushmore.
Okay, so are they a bank?
They're the servicer,
Are they
right?
affiliated with U.S. Bank?
No.
Okay, excuse me 1 second. The attorney for the bank, I don't know if we got your name and your client.
Janet Ward.
Janet Ward, and you represent the bank. What's the name of the bank?
Rushmore.
Rushmore. Okay, so how far away do you think you are from getting a judgment on this property?
I would say roughly about 6 months.
6 months. Okay, maybe you could talk to Ms. Hevesy in the back, because maybe you could accelerate the process of finally getting a judgment and having a potential buyer for this property. I'm sure that's in your client's interests and perhaps in the community's interest as well.
And my advice to Dr. Hevesy, because she and I talked about this particular issue, is that, may I ask what the balance is due on the property now?
I don't have any of that information.
Okay, well, it would be in the summons and complaint.
Ms. Fatima, you can go in the back with the two of them, so you can.
Okay, absolutely, I appreciate that. But on the record, I'm going to make sure that the council gets this article. They can go in several Long Island Heralds and just Google in this. This will be very explanatory. I don't know what the board wants to do with demolishing it, but once they demolish it, it becomes a vacant lot. That also brings down, because then you got to find someone to build a house from, from scratch. So I know Ms.
Thank you.
Hevesy.
Thank you, Ms. Fatima.
Excuse me?
tell your client to Rushmore.
Well, absolutely.
Well, again, this goes through the court system, so it's not necessarily a delay on my client.
Ms. Ward,
This council person is.
excuse me, Ms. Fatima. I'm sorry, but your time has expired now. Ms. Ward, you filled out a separate slip. I don't know, you were called up mostly to answer to Ms. Fatima's questions. Is there something that you would like to say?
No, I've said everything.
Okay, could I use your time?
Ms. Fatima,
Sorry.
you have more time if you go in the back with the two of them and discuss
The
it.
question's actually posed to this councilman who said that you have 9 years to resolve the issue.
Ms. Fatima, I know you very well. So would you please go in the back with those two people so you can further discuss this to your satisfaction?
Well, if a council person says
Thank-
something, we should
I am the council,
rebuttal, I'll ask the councilman.
but you're out of time with the supervisor saying you're out of town.
We have to stick to our strict time requirements of 3 minutes.
He didn't take up, why?
No, our clerk stops the time when we're speaking and runs the time when you're
We
speaking.
want to make sure that we don't demolish it until some issues are resolved.
We don't know yet. We will get to that. Okay, so but first of all, the three of you go into the back, please.
Just for the record, I would not like the building to be demolished as of yet. That's my position,
in the record.
because it's much easier for us to restore the building.
Okay, this is what we're going to do. This is, if you two would go,
I guess we'll have to get a temporary restraining order against the town, against the demolition, and I'm sure the bank will probably do the same.
Ms. Fatima,
All right.
the senior councilwoman
I
would
have
like to address that.
to Commissioner Buildings, you think it would be okay to give them 30 days to try to get this resolved? Okay, 30 days.
Okay, thank you, Ray.
All right. I recommend that we give them 30 days. Need someone to second?
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Not for you. This is not for you, sir. Okay, no, it's not finished yet, so let them have their time. The next time they come back, so you can speak then. All right? Okay, thank you. We didn't finish the vote.
Thank you.
All in favor? All in favor? It's closed. It's a closed issue now, Mr.
Mr. Procacci,
He shouldn't, because we're just going to close it for 30 days, and he'll have time to come back and talk.
after he's finished, you can make your motion.
I already made my motion.
Felix Procacci, 1165 Bond Street, Franklin Square. What didn't get mentioned here is back, I believe it's 2016. I didn't come prepared to speak on this issue, but we did pass a vacant building law. We did pass a zombie home law. We're supposed to form a registry. So allegedly, I believe it hasn't been implemented based on other people who've had these issues because it never really went to that registry. I don't know if the building department is actually keeping those records, but there was a process by which if people reported zombie homes and whatnot, that the lien holder, the bank, finance company, would be required to cut the grass and do exterior repairs on it. I did question the law as far as its constitutionality because some of the things in that law, I don't think they are allowed to do per the Constitution, but this board did pass this unanimously, and it's on video in 2016 prior to us archiving. So the thing is, the questions that need to be asked by everybody here is, because I've heard somebody was saying that the town did come to this property, so if they did come to this property, why wasn't it put on that list? And why didn't the town follow up? Why didn't the building department follow up? Why does it come to this matter? The idea was, the allegations were that the finance companies were negligent and the banks were negligent and all this other stuff that came up, during the previous administration. And if we passed this law and we all thought this law was good and it made the newspapers and everything, why wasn't the town?
Felix,
Why wasn't the town, active in dealing with this property
Felix.
at an earlier time?
Felix, we were, that's why we're here today.
But how could the grass get to 5 feet if that was the case?
Well, there's a
Because
process.
the law said,
Do you want an answer to your
I don't want to answer from you.
Then don't ask any questions.
These are rhetorical questions, and these are things for you to look into.
It's a rhetorical question.
Okay? You want me to say that beforehand, or does it need a really full explanation? Why, if the town knew about that this was a zombie home, why wasn't it on the registry? Why wasn't the building department or whoever's in charge of cutting the grass and maintaining the exterior part of the property doing that process? Because that's what that law says, and the idea was the cost of cutting that grass was going to be put as a lien on that property when it eventually was sold. Thank you very much.
Commissioner, are we maintaining a vacant home registry and notifying lenders that they have to cut the grass? You indicated yes, we are? Okay. I do not have any other slips on this matter.
Anyone from Lakeview? I see other people here from Lakeview that would like to address this issue. Okay, if not, may I have a vote? I make the motion that we give the bank 30 days in order to be able to try to come to some conclusion.
Madam Clerk?
Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Blakeman. Councilman D'Esposito. Councilman Dunn. Councilwoman King Sweeney. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Supervisor Gillen.
Aye. Madam Clerk, please call our next public hearing.
Proposed local law regarding regulations and restrictions to limit parking in Seaford.
I do not have any slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to be heard? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Supervisor, I move the hearing be closed and the item adopted.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Blakeman. Councilman D'Esposito. Councilman Dunn. Councilwoman King Sweeney. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Supervisor Gillen.
Aye. Madam Clerk, please call our next public hearing.
Proposed local law regarding parking or standing prohibitions in Oceanside and Seaford.
I do not have any slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to be heard? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
I move that the public hearing be closed and the local law adopted.
Madam Clerk?
Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Blakeman. Councilman D'Esposito. Councilman Dunn. Councilwoman King Sweeney. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Supervisor Gillen.
Aye. Madam Clerk, please call our next public hearing.
Proposed local law regarding arterial stops in Baldwin Harbor and Oceanside.
I do not have any slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to be heard? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
I move that the public hearing be closed and the local law adopted.
Second the motion.
Madam Clerk?
Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Blakeman. Councilman Diaz-Pasito. Councilman Dunn. Councilwoman King Sweeney. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Supervisor Gillen.
Aye. Madam Clerk, please call our next public hearing.
Proposed local law to be entitled Code of Ethics.
I have a few slips on this public hearing. First one being from Gabby Hoffman.
Morning, Supervisor, Town Board members.
Good morning.
I just wanted to make a couple notes on this item. I think it's great that we're looking to expand the Ethics Board. I think it's great anytime we look at ethics. It's critical kind of everywhere across America, but especially here in Nassau. One thing I want to make sure is important is to make sure this has teeth. At the end of the day, if there is a law that requires ethics compliance and it either takes years to get through the system while whoever is under investigation is able to serve in their position or continue as is, that doesn't have teeth. It allows people to drag their feet through the process. Additionally, it should allow for people to be referred to the Ethics Board through many channels. Not too many to make it abusive, but to allow for multiple channels, because otherwise people might come up for each other. That's just how it works. Their friends, their colleagues. We should make it so that when an ethics item is up, it should be like it is at a lot of private companies. Ethics hotline, be able to report something you see that's not appropriate and be able to move forward from there. Maybe it doesn't move forward. Maybe it's baseless. Maybe people are abusing the system, sure. But I have rarely heard of an instance in private institutions where people abuse the system. If anything, they kind of ignore it. But it's worth at least putting it out there for people to report issues that they may see that not everyone's aware of. Sometimes you see an ethics violation, it's in private. We should allow it to be an ethics law that actually reaches out and makes an impact in our system. You know, adding people is great, but it's got to make sure it has teeth. Finally, I would say that there should be some kind of impact on the ethics committee itself, meaning while we have an ethics committee, it's great to have them, there should be something to be said for that board. You know, the qualifications should be clear. We should have an ethics committee that is one that is committed to ethics, ones that have some qualification to get on it, not just, well, they're good people, or we know them, or they're friends with other people. You know, we should go out of our way, especially when it's not a paid position. This should be people who are of the highest caliber, who can be impartial. You know, similar, I forget which town it is, might be Oyster Bay, where one of their committees requires people from different parties. You know, something like that, maybe people from different parties and independents as well, so that there isn't that kind of partisan issue when it comes to the ethics board. You know, Republicans, Democrats, third parties, you know, no parties, letting everyone involved. That's just my piece. Thank you.
Supervisor, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this item. We worked in a bipartisan fashion to come up with a ethics law that we all felt very comfortable that was addressing the issues. We understand now that our ethics proposal was changed with 26 amendments. Yeah, that there were 26 amendments that you're proposing. I think we need time to review each and every one of those, and that I suggest then that we form a committee, meet together, and see if we can get something that we can all agree upon, because this shouldn't be a partisan issue. It should be nonpartisan, and we should work together to try and get it done. So my motion is, let's adjourn this, review the 26 revisions that were proposed by your office, and see if we can come up with something that we can all agree upon.
I
will second the motion.
I agree wholeheartedly, Mr. Blakeman, since we had two competing ethics resolutions put forward in the fall. We've been working with the town's ethics council, Mr. Leventhal, to try to come to a joint proposal that we can all be proud of. I'm glad we've moved forward in this fashion. I look forward to working with the members of the board. I have proposed, as Councilman Blakeman said, a number of amendments. I didn't count them, but I'll take his word for it that it's 26. And Councilwoman Dorothy Gooseby gave some comments to my amendments, so she has comments, so I think this will be productive to give us time to flesh out all these thoughts and come together on hopefully one joint resolution. So I'm full in favor.
Question is this: did you run all of these changes that you made through the person who you work with, and your attorney worked with to make sure that these were correct before we even seen them?
We've worked extensively with Mr.
I'm talking about since Friday when you worked on this Friday.
I've been working on it since September.
What the changes you made on Friday, have you run those through Mr. Leventhal?
I believe Mr. Leventhal has been in discussion with my counsel and with my office since September. So Mr. Leventhal is fully aware of the things that we want, and we circulated our proposed amendments to the town board so we could discuss them, and I think that's exactly what this motion is going to allow us to do. So, Madam Clerk, do you want to call the roll?
Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Blakeman. Councilman D'Esposito. Councilman Dunn. Councilwoman King Sweeney. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Supervisor Gillen.
Aye. Madam Clerk, will you call the next public hearing, please?
Proposed local law in relation to regulations of marijuana in town of Hempstead parks and park district parks.
I have a number of slips on this public hearing. First,
Supervisor, before you call people up with respect to this, I have a statement I'd like to make about this, if you would allow me. I would like to take this opportunity to clearly state my position on the recreational marijuana moratorium. I believe this is a good first step, and I join my colleagues in respect to this measure. However, I am unequivocally against the legalization of recreational marijuana in New York State. In the past, I have supported medical marijuana administered under a doctor's supervision, and I still support medical marijuana. But I believe recreational marijuana is an entirely different matter. I have spoken with healthcare professionals and law enforcement experts. The vast majority of those I have consulted with have warned of the public health disaster if recreational marijuana is legalized. I urge our state officials to reject this ill-advised plan, and I support my colleagues on what I believe is only a first step that we should be taking to make sure that our young people are not exposed to recreational marijuana.
yes, please.
Councilman, 100%. And certainly I do not want these places to come up in the village of Hempstead or any of my district.
Okay, as I said, I have a number of slips of people who'd like to be heard on this matter. The first is Felix.
Before us is the signs in the parks. This is what the item 8 is. The next item is number 9 about the moratorium.
Right, so they're
now,
companion.
those coming up to talk should be talking about the signs in the parks and.
It's signs and banning all, in the event it becomes legal, banning all smoking.
Can we call? I move that we consolidate the two items.
Second.
For the purposes of public.
Second.
Do we need to call a roll on that? All right, Madam Clerk, will you call the roll on the vote on consolidating these items?
Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Blakeman. Councilman D'Esposito. Councilman Dunn. Councilwoman King Sweeney. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Supervisor Gillen.
Aye. Okay, first slip is from Felix Procacci.
Felix Procacci, 1165 Barn Street, Franklin Square, New York. I object to combining the two in one because they are two different things, and it just gives less commentary to the people. Currently, marijuana is illegal. I've discussed this many times here, and I took Councilman Dunn's recommendation, and despite the fact I didn't want to do it, I called the police the last time the kids saw, that were smoking marijuana, and the police called 911. They actually called me. I told them south side of the park. They came 15 minutes later, and they came in with 2 cruisers on the north side of the park, and they didn't even know enough to turn right, head south. When they went right by me. I had to run and tell them where they were. By that time, the kids had left the park, and all the other times that I've called, or people on my track club, the parents on the track club, they called, the police just escort them out of the park. And that's illegal substance. So it was regardless of whether the proper signage was there or not. Now, I would be outraged, and my kids probably wouldn't be able to use the car forever if I caught them using illegal drugs or even legal marijuana. But the thing is that the signage and all these things, it didn't make a difference when it was illegal. Now we're going to possibly make marijuana legal. The police, I don't believe, despite what Councilman Dunn, the long, dissertation he gave me about the integrity of the new police commissioner and this and that, I don't believe they have a handle on this issue. I don't believe the make this work is not a town board alone issue. It's a community issue. All the different aspects of the community, the social services, the police, the court system, everybody has to be on the same page. I haven't seen any articles or any indication that that's the case. When you have disparate agencies all going different directions, all the good intentions are useless. And you could put this down, and I agree with it in principle, and I agree with both of them in principle, but I just see it as useless, and especially the second part with the moratorium. All that's going to do is create a black market. I live 3 miles from the city line. The kids could ride their bicycles. The older kids will ride there, and they're going to make a profit. They'll buy the marijuana. And I just went on a website today before I came to the meeting in Colorado. I added it to my cart. I added marijuana products from Colorado, I believe it was. And I added my zip code, New York, and everything. All I had to do was press pay, and I could have had marijuana that's currently illegal heading toward my house. So, like I said, it got to be a comprehensive effort, and this is just one piece.
I'd like to respond to that real quick, if I may. If you're coaching 5 o'clock every Tuesday and Thursday, and you know those kids come at 5:15 and start smoking, you let the cops know that at 5:15 these guys are always there. Gives them a chance, because if you call them at 5:15, they're not going to get there till 5:30. Those kids are going to be gone. So if you know they're going to be there when you're coaching Tuesday and Thursday at 5 o'clock, at 5:15, those kids are going to be there. Give them the heads up so they can have the cars there already. If you call them, by the time they get there, they're going to be gone. But you know what? Their excuse is going to be, I didn't know, but the signage is going to be up. Now they can't say, well, I didn't know. So that's why we need to educate those that we think that marijuana is okay, that even that's illegal too, smoking, vaping, and now marijuana. You know what? It'll help educate people, and that's what we're trying to do. Thank you for your comments. Thank you.
The kids leave when the police enter the park, not beforehand, and they're not on schedule. The kids come all different times
Mr. Prakash.
a day and different days of the week.
Rory Gordon.
Good morning, Rory Gordon, Hop Hog, New York. You have the ability, as soon as it becomes law, to put marijuana dealers out of business. If you decide not to pass the law as a board, you are promoting illegal criminal activity because people are a lot smarter than you may believe and will be obtaining marijuana regardless. I equate the situation to prohibition. As soon as alcohol was legalized, all the moonshiners, for the most part, went out of business. Can the town of Hempstead afford to give up the tax revenue? How much more can the town charge for building permit fees, park entrance fees, marriage licenses to make up for the shortfall of monies that are needed to run the town? All the politicians have drilled into the public is how much the town of Hempstead has forgiven on permit fees due to Hurricane Sandy. $7-8 million, I think, was the last figure claimed, which ultimately comes out of the taxpayer's pocket, whether they had storm damage or not. If you live in Levittown, you absorb the loss, even though you do not live near the water. Don't the residents have a right to make up the taxable revenues as opposed to losing the income to the boroughs? What if a small local village permits it? Ultimately, that village will hit a tax income bonanza, just as the NIMBYs did not want gambling at Roosevelt Raceway. They gave it away to Jake's 58, which is in a small village that hit the jackpot in taxable revenue. Would you rather have a licensed, regulated, tax-driven business on your corner or a drug dealer who has gotten much smarter and relies on selling heroin-laced joints to kids, which starts them on the road to ruination? Every reasonable person considers this law a no-brainer. Kids will get their marijuana legally or illegally, just as folks obtained alcohol during Prohibition. As I see it, politicians put their finger in the wind to see what's best for them. Except, Mr. Blakeman, you did express your opinion. If people come out for the revenue stream, then you'll be all for it. I have a question for Lauren and Erin. We know you have young children, and we know your children. Erin, I'm sorry. I have a question for you and for Laura. We know you have young children. Your children are saints. However, hypothetically, if you wanted
My children are saints?
Yes.
I'm just dealing with my son's teacher right now who emailed me. I can tell you he's not.
Hypothetically, if they wanted to experiment unbeknown to you, would you prefer your children obtaining their marijuana from a tax-paying, state-authorized facility or a drug dealer on the corner, which kids would have no idea what the joint might be laced with, possibly heroin? What would be your choice?
I would say I would probably fall along the lines of Mr. Procacci, that if my kids were using marijuana, they'd be in really big trouble.
But that doesn't answer the question.
Can I actually respond with a question? So, are you suggesting that if marijuana is legal, that there will be no one dealing marijuana? Is that what you're suggesting? Yeah. That's insane.
Well, somebody that's 21 is going to get it.
Okay. Well, I will tell you from years of experience, whether it is legal or not, there will be people dealing drugs illegally. It's just the nature of our world.
Okay, but wouldn't you rather have your kids? Well, you don't.
No, I'd rather not have any kids. No, I wouldn't. And I also don't think that, by not voting on this or voting on it, that's going to somehow create people smoking heroin-laced marijuana cigarettes. I'm not even sure of the correlation.
My girlfriend's daughter started smoking pot, heroin-laced.
And I'm sorry to hear that, but that's not because of whether there are marijuana distribution stores or not. I mean, the way you obtain marijuana will really, in essence, be the same. If you want to buy it from someone illegally on the street or buy it from someone in a tax-paying store, that's going to be on you.
It's no different than Prohibition.
It's a lot different.
It's a lot different.
It's a lot different. I'll tell you why. You cannot properly measure or gauge usage of marijuana. You can gauge use of alcohol. If you have a glass of wine, you pretty much know with your body content and what you had to eat, the ramifications. If you have 2 glasses of wine, you pretty much know that. When you're smoking marijuana, you don't know the strength. You don't know how many puffs. You don't know how it's going to affect you. And the fact of the matter is, it is a complete public health crisis right now in Colorado. And when you speak to people in Colorado, they tell you that any of the tax revenues that have been gained as a result of this have gone right back to addressing this public health crisis, where accidents have increased, where worker productivity has gone down, where health issues have arisen, where homelessness has arisen. It's not the same as alcohol. I'm not putting a stamp of approval on alcohol, but I'm saying it's not the same thing. And the fact of the matter is that it's the same reason I'm not for lotto and lottery. I don't think that the government should be engaged in these activities to raise revenue. I don't think it's a function of government. So I am against lotteries and lottos for that reason as well.
I appreciate your personal opinion. I just think by instituting a moratorium, you're kicking the can down the road. And
May I say one word?
oh, you
If
can
you
say
had
yes.
children, would you allow your children to go out and buy the marijuana? Is that what you're saying? If you had children, it'd be fine for them to go out and purchase it?
I'm sorry, repeat that. Do I have children? Is that what
I
you're
said,
asking?
if you had children, I don't know whether you do or not. You may have, I don't know. I don't think so. If you had them, would you think it would be okay for them to go out and purchase marijuana?
I would much rather them go to a dispensary where they know it's not laced with heroin, yes.
You may not know that, but they may not go there because they don't want to be seen. So I think what we have come up with is a good idea for now. You know, we want to have a moratorium on it. That's what we are suggesting, and I certainly will agree with that.
And
I don't think, you know, the more, if we put, I think it's money that the government wants more and more money. They found a new way to do it, and I don't think it's proper.
Who's the council person from Malvern and West Hempstead? It says here, the residents support recreational use of marijuana in New York, Long Island Herald.
It says what?
Long Island Herald wrote, Malvern, West Hempstead residents support recreational use of marijuana in New York.
Yeah, I find that very difficult to believe. I'm in
Here's the
Malvern
article.
and West Hempstead on a regular basis. I really find that very difficult to believe.
She's going to pass up the article.
Everything you read in the newspaper.
Yeah, there are some
is really
people.
True.
Oh, baby, you know I know that.
Okay, just know that.
I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Gordon, for your comments. Just to respond to a couple things that you said. One is you say politicians are putting their finger to the wind. We are a representative body, so it's important for us to listen to our constituents, to listen to the public, to see how they feel about these issues. We're going to hear people on both sides. This is a very hotly contested, emotionally charged issues. So as a representative body, it's our duty to listen to our residents on this issue. And in terms of kicking the can down the road, right now we're in a very a legal gray area. We don't know what's going to happen. The state looks like it's going to pass this legislation, but it hasn't been passed yet. We don't know what that legislation is going to say because it hasn't been finalized. We don't know who will be what municipality will have the jurisdiction to opt in or to opt out. It looks like it's probably going to be left to the county. So as a township, for us to press pause and wait and see how the legal landscape shapes out is the most responsible thing we can do right now. So we know what the landscape is in order to take any action that we decide ultimately with public input is the appropriate action to take. So that's why we think collectively we came together as a board and we decided that this is the best way that we can wait and not waste taxpayer dollars, because right now we don't know if we'll have the option to opt in or opt out. If we opt in and we think that there's some zoning regulations that need to come into place, we're going to have to do a study that's going to cost money, that would cost taxpayer dollars. If the county opts out, then it's a non-issue and we don't have to spend that money. So this is why we as a board came together and collectively met and decided that a moratorium is the best way for us to proceed right now so we can see what the legal landscape is as it shakes out as legislation unfolds.
And for the record, did you read this article, Rory?
Yeah.
Okay. It's one resident from Malvern and one resident from West Hempstead.
Okay.
That's not West Hempstead and Malvern. That's one resident from West Hempstead and one resident from Malvern. And if you read this article, you would find that the Denver police chief said that DUIs since legalization of recreational marijuana has increased 33%.
And
if that's not a public safety crisis, I don't know what is.
And on the flip side, there's articles all over the internet where Denver is prospering. So you believe who you want to believe. I guess that's what it boils down to, correct?
Thank you, Ms. Gordon.
If I could just add a few comments, I fully agree with what Supervisor Gillen said, and that's why I joined her in calling for the moratorium, and I think the board is aligned on this issue. I think that this is an incredibly complicated issue. It's a new issue that's facing the country right now, and I think to push that pause button and have a moratorium is really the prudent thing. I think during the press conference, I said I have been surprised by the the comments and the passions on both sides, and people don't fit easily into boxes in this dialogue, actually. Some of my most conservative libertarian friends strongly support the legalization of the recreation of pot, and yet some of my most liberal friends are opposed to it. So I think that this is a complicated issue. It's one that I believe that I am against, but I do think we need to have a data-driven conversation, and it's for that reason. Yesterday I met with a former official in the Obama White House, and he also served President Bush, who was in the drug office, and some members of the town board also joined me in that conversation. So we need to have a data-driven conversation to be respectful to people on both sides of this issue. It is a potentially scary issue for all of us, and I think we just need to better understand it. This is not a bunch of politicians kicking the can down the road. In this case, this is a bipartisan effort to fully understand this important issue. That's all.
And the county is having community input meetings, and they will be hosting one here in Town Hall next week on March 5th. I believe it's 7 p.m. 7 p.m. here in Town Hall, where you can also speak to your county elected representatives, who may in fact be the people who have the authority to decide whether or not we as a county will opt in or opt out. Ms. Gordon, I'm sorry, your time is up. The next person is Mr.
Say one thing, you know, you're saying we agreeing on this, but I want everybody to know we have not had a meeting together. And when we vote on this, this will be the first time we've actually voted on it, because, you know, we have to have open meetings. You know, we have not had a closed meeting on this.
Right, I misspoke.
No, I just want to make sure, because someone would say later on that we were together and we met. We did not.
No secret meetings.
No secret meetings.
There were no secret meetings. We met with people from the council to the majority, council from the town attorney's office, and council from my office all got together and met, and that's when we first started discussing this with the full participation of all the lawyers involved. Dave Hansen.
Good morning, everyone. Dave Hansen, P.O. Box 7645, Garden.
I'm sorry, could you just speak into the mic, Mr. Hansen? Just state your name and address for the record, please.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Dave Hansen, P.O. Box 7645 in Garden City, New York. I really think that we're wasting our time discussing this issue, and I really think this issue is something for the state and the federal government, because basically I really think that the state supersedes the town, the county, the villages, and all entity that fall on the New York State. So this is something for COMA to deal with. And putting sign in our parks, that's a waste of taxpayer money at this time when we are facing so much foreclosure here in Nassau County because of taxes. So I really think that you guys are wasting your time here, and you're overusing your privilege and overstepping your boundary as far as the Constitution of the United States. So I really think that in all respect, we should allow Comer and his team in Albany to do their job, because the state supersedes every agency, including the Port Authority that I worked for 25 years. So we should put this on hold and wait on the outcome of Albany. And once Albany passed that, it's the law under every entity that fall under New York State, or allow CHUM to do it, which they're not going to do it no time soon. So I think this is something for Albany, not for the town. It's waste of taxpayer money when you're going to have people make up signs over time to put these signs out in all these parks. I think we have better things here to do to run this town, and I really think that every member here, I told you guys the last time about when I worked for the Port Authority, we have jug-sniffing dogs that was well-trained to do their job, and I really think that you guys are out of touch with real time. This is something for the state to decide and the federal government, not the town at this time. So I suggest you guys put this thing on hold, leave it for the state to do, and leave it for the state to hack, because we have other things like this lady saying a home across her street is abandoned for so many years. We must hold these banks accountable. We must hold the people who own these homes, but it's the bank, because they were involved in this bubbling stuff way back then when they gave people homes that they couldn't afford. And the law said if you willfully knowing that they could not afford the home, you need to go to the state attorney general office. There's money there to help them for free. A lot of people don't know that. So the town is really playing games with people. That's why I love Kentucky. I love that state. That's why I spend a lot of my time there now. Because my home, my uncle home is $1,200. My home here is $16,000. And Goosby's talking. That's why I run that lady the other day. I don't need to speak to them, but I think this is something for the state and the federal government, not the town.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson. Susan Goddard? I'm sorry if I said it wrong.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. If you just state your name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, Susan Goddard, New York Civil Liberties Union, 33 Front Street, Hempstead. So I think there's some things here that are also not being said that are really important to this. The New York Civil Liberties Union strongly recommends that localities consider the role that they can play to undo the harm of criminalization and to ensure that the communities who have lost the most to prohibition stand to gain the most through thoughtful legislation. I might also understand you're going to be voting on this after this hearing.
We're going to be voting on the moratorium and on the signage and banning any kind of smoking of marijuana in our parks.
Yeah, and I would generally ask, and I ask this of all town governments, when you have a hearing and then you vote immediately after the hearing, it really conveys a sense of just a perfunctory hearing to your residents. So I would ask for you to think about this for a little bit while longer before you take the vote. Data analysis has found that 4 out of 5 of those arrested for marijuana possession are Black and Latino, despite similar rates of use across race and ethnic backgrounds. And I think this is a real issue here. In Nassau and Suffolk counties, nearly 20,000 people were arrested for possession from 2010 to 2017, with 2 out of every 3 arrested being Black and Latino. These are the highest rates of low-level law enforcement in the state outside of New York City. Over the course of decades, hundreds of thousands of people across the state have suffered the inhumanities and indignities of incarceration based on biased policing. The ramifications have been loss of housing, unemployment, loss of child custody in some cases, and loss of livelihood.
Yes, but ma'am, with all due respect, that's not the matter that's before us. I think that we could have a discussion on criminalization, and I certainly would love to have that discussion. Certainly, you know, on the federal level, as you watched President Trump and a bipartisan group in Congress came up with new laws that have lessened penalties and decriminalized certain acts. Basically, what we're talking about here is not putting people in jail. It's not about bias. This is something that affects all people. And recreational marijuana doesn't know religion, doesn't know race, doesn't know ethnicity, doesn't know gender, doesn't know sexual preference. Addiction is something that crosses all barriers, all lines, economic, social, racial, completely everybody, and it's a public health crisis, and it's a problem in our community. And if you want to talk about decriminalizing certain acts, I think that's a fair comment, and then we should have that. And if there is disproportionate enforcement, we should discuss that as well, so that it's fair and it's reasonable and it's balanced. But that's not what's before us right now.
I believe that there is before us the smoking in the parks, and there will be criminal offenses for smoking in the parks. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So then that does matter here. So what we're asking is that for that one provision that you're considering, we would ask you to consider civil penalties, lower penalties, desk ticket appearances, things like that as far as criminalization goes, because as I said, the enforcement of this is very different along racial lines. And I think that we don't want to become complicit in that. I would also recommend anti-bias training for police so that those numbers can get a little better.
I know that we're not discussing this right now, but I have to jump in, especially as someone who is former law enforcement. To say that arresting people for marijuana is biased is
No, I'm supplying you with data.
okay, and I'm just explaining to you that either marijuana is marijuana or it's not marijuana. There's no middle road. So if someone is arrested for marijuana, it's because they deserve to be. If they're written a ticket for marijuana, it's because they deserve it. It's not biased. It's not biased towards any race. It's not. Maybe the arrest numbers are different. Do you also have the numbers in there of how many people are arrested for marijuana that leads to other crimes?
I'm sorry, can you back up a second though? Maybe arrest numbers are different. That's important. That's important. And all I ask is that this board take a look at.
And I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying to claim that it's biased is not really factual.
To claim that it's biased is not factual.
That police are enforcing marijuana in a biased manner, yes, that's not really that fair.
Okay, well, I can get you information.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
I lived it. I don't need the info, but thank you.
Well, that's very open-minded of you. Okay, so as far as the criminal, we would ask that you lower those penalties.
The penalties, excuse me, if I may,
yes.
the penalties are the same as if you're smoking in the park, the same as if you're vaping in the park, and if you're using marijuana in the park, the same enforcement of the, so it's not like, oh, it's much worse. You're going to
No,
be
I
going.
understand, and I'm glad that you raised that because we would recommend that low-level offenses in general also come down to civil offenses. There's no reason to feed the incarceration machine.
They're not felonies. They're not. It's not that they're going to be going to.
No, I
to
understand,
prison,
but
so.
there is a way that people can end up in jail.
And let me tell you something. I belong to a lot of different coalitions about opiates and vaping and all of that. The kids are scared to death of this stuff. They don't. And if they think it's okay, and they're being bullied into doing it, they can. You know, if they see that. It's an educational thing what we're doing here. Also, it's letting the kids know that stuff's dangerous. That's not good. It's not good smoking marijuana. I don't care what you say. So what happens is they see it and they say, you see what? You see vaping and cigarettes. Vaping's better than cigarettes. No, it's not. You know what? Marijuana is better than alcohol. No, it's not. You know, COPD and emphysema comes from marijuana, but nobody tells you that.
No, I'm not.
So we're just educating the people. It's bad. Don't do it. Don't do it in our parks. When our kids are watching at a concert with us in the park and the guy next to you is smoking pot, do you want that for your kids? No, I don't want it for my grandchildren. So let's, we're doing something about it. There should be a law, and we're doing it.
We agree there should be a law. We're asking you to take a look at what the consequences of those laws are and how those laws are enforced. That's it.
Yeah, ma'am,
I haven't even gotten to the moratorium, but I see that my time is going to.
Just for the record, I
Yes.
checked with counsel just to confirm, a first offense is not criminal in nature. It is a $250 fine, and it's a violation. And it is a desk appearance. There's no arrest.
Okay, I would still implore you to look at the enforcement numbers. There is a bias component to it that is very, very important. And I'm just asking that under the guise of a public hearing, that the deliberation that needs to happen, I love what you said about there's a lot of different people coming at this from a lot of different ways. I haven't heard anything about the criminal justice system yet in these arguments, and I'm presenting them to you. So I really would request that you take a little more time.
To watch to see if there is selective enforcement. If that's a problem, then we'll try to catch it.
It's already a problem all over the country, so
Well, it hasn't been here yet, and if it does happen, we're going to take care of it. We're going to keep an eye on it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks for
Ma'am,
bringing
I'd
it
be
to our
happy to
attention.
read the information that you can pass off to my office.
Yes.
Thanks.
Mark Werizel?
Good morning. Good morning, Town Supervisor and Town Board.
Good morning.
Mark Wenzel. I'm the Assistant Director of Yes Community Counseling Center at 152 Center Lane in Levittown. I want to thank the board for their comments, for their concerns, obviously for your investment of time and energy in looking into this matter, and I totally want to come out in support of the moratorium. At this point, I very much respect Ed has done for all his work with the coalition, and certainly Councilman Blakeman for your statement on the issue. Personally, the legalization is a nightmare as far as I'm concerned, and the whole issue. As a parent, as an adult, I think that our job in the world is to make the world a better place for the next generation, and I think that this is totally going in the wrong direction. As an agency that does prevention and treatment, we are, if you look at the fiscal, possibilities or windfall, if you want to call it that, that might come out of this, it will totally be undone by all the drain on the resources, law enforcement, judicial, healthcare, insurance. Every which one of them is going to suffer, as we move on down the road, and that's evidenced by what's happening in some of the states that have legalized, particularly in Colorado. To put a moratorium on this and ask for time to better understand not only the legislation and laws coming out of the state, whatever the state determines to do, but then to determine how we're going to, move forward with that and implement that locally, I think is absolutely the right way to go at this point. As much as I'd love to fight, against the legalization, I think that is where we have to be at this point here. Without having some kind of testing, as you said earlier, alcohol, we can evaluate a person's level of disability. We have tests to do that. We don't have that with marijuana. We don't have that with pot. So until we have some kind of a formal test to be able to do that, how are you then going to tell employers, okay, as a business, how do you determine what you're going to do in terms of testing your staff? When's the last time that they used? Are they able to do their job? Are you going to get into a car with a driver, with an Uber? You're going to get into an airplane with a pilot. It was at least 24 hours. It was 48 hours. That impairment goes much longer with pot than it does with alcohol. It feels like we're going to try and figure out a way to make money off of the young people, off of the adults who are having addiction problems, who are having problems with mental health, and who are really struggling, and in some way that's going to pay back. This community, if you look at Colorado, they are still struggling with budget issues, especially in light of all the stuff that's going on. So I certainly want to come out in favor of the signage. I don't want my kids going into a park, my grandkids going into a park and smelling the person next door smoking pot. So I agree with both issues, and I want to thank you.
And I want to thank you, sir, for coming. And later on in this meeting, we are going to be voting on whether to hire Mr. Barry Wilansky from the Tempo Group as a consultant to us, and also to act as a referral for people who have children that have issues with any kind of drug or alcohol problem or suicide prevention, and also for veterans. So we are fulfilling a campaign promise to do that, and we're going to move forward with that, hopefully today, so that we have someone who can advise us, just like you advise people in your community, about what needs to be done. When someone calls your agency, you refer them to the right place. You make sure that they get the information they need, because we're not going to stop this completely. There's a lot of components. There's also the treatment component, as you know, and the therapy and all that. That's the stuff also that has to be involved in the mix, so that we can have a healthier society and our children can be healthier, and our veterans who come home from traumatic and stressful situations can be reintegrated into the community without relying on alcohol and drugs and things like that. So thank you. God bless you for your work.
Sir,
I'm sorry.
you go ahead.
And then,
Yeah.
ladies first. Ladies
Oh, thank you as well for coming. And when the previous woman from the ACLU was speaking, I was trying to organize my thoughts, and I don't think they're yet organized, but I do want to comment on what she said and also what you said, and maybe bring this together and prove why we need a moratorium. You mentioned that we don't have a full understanding of the time, the impairment that people are under after they've smoked pot. And I think we need to really understand that. And from a drug testing perspective, from folks that we have in the town of Hempstead workplace, CDL drivers, people who are in important public safety jobs, whether it's pilots, truck drivers, whatever it may be, I think we really need to get a handle on what that is. And two, really understand the legitimate concerns of the minority community who do feel impacted by this issue over years of arrests on this. And I do represent a large minority population, and I have heard those very legitimate concerns, and I frankly want to give voice to those concerns and to understand those concerns. So the woman from the ACLU, I don't know if she's still here, you might be surprised that I really was listening to what she was saying, and I think that we need to understand that and really understand the impact of legalizing pot on this community, because is the minority community, are they the truck drivers who work for us, are they the ones plowing the snow, and then in 2 days we test them for pot and then we have to terminate them as a result. We need to really understand the impact on this important community and not dismiss it on either side. So I want to give voice to that community, give voice to their concerns, and really do a deep dive into the data over the next year as we explore this moratorium. Thank you for showing up.
Yeah, if I may, the issue of decriminalization is different than the issue of
Exactly, it is. And the huge impact that this has had on the minority community, we do need to acknowledge that.
Thank you, sir.
Just to add to your argument, the New York State PTA is against legalization of marijuana because of their children. The New York State Medical Society, because of the impact in a medical society with what's going on with marijuana, they're against the legalization of marijuana. And the New York State police organizations who have to enforce all these laws, and they don't know, right now it's a nightmare for them. Once this hits the streets, you know, it's going to be very, very difficult. So they're against the legalization of marijuana. We just want the kids to know that no, you don't see that on the media, you don't see that in the newspapers, you don't see it anywhere, that all these organizations are against the legalization of marijuana. All you see is, oh, it's better than alcohol, come on. You know, no. We want to help the kids, give them something to educate them a little bit, and let them look into it then, and then they'll decide. We're going to be putting out stuff, letting you know what the goods, the downfall of use of any kind of hallucinant or whatever it is that helps get you high. It's, you know, get high on life. You know, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ruth Ann McCormick.
Thank you for giving us the time to speak. I want to let you know that I'm the project coordinator for the Rockville Center Coalition for Youth. We're a drug-free community coalition. Our main focus is prevention, education, and to address the needs in our community and our surrounding communities, especially with our youth that are vaping at an epidemically high amounts, and also vaping marijuana. And they're also becoming dependent on the marijuana, and the nicotine is putting them into addiction. So I just want to say that we support the moratorium and the law, and I'm going to address now the revenue issues regarding the legalization of recreational marijuana. As you know, according to the governor, the state is currently wrestling with closing a mammoth budget deficit this year of $2.3 to $2.8 billion, with more deficits to address in the out years. With such enormous holes already facing the state, the legalization of cannabis at this time, which promises paltry tax revenues of $300 million statewide, makes even less sense. We already know that the $300 million will be dwarfed by the increased cost of law enforcement, health, mental health, counseling, education, and treatment programs. Subtract the startup/ongoing annual $30+ million cost for the Office of Cannabis Management, as well as the intangible costs of the pain and anguish visited on communities of every demographic that are already struggling with opioid abuse, and the promise of sharing those revenues with 62 counties, 932 towns, 62 cities, 10 Native American reservations, and over 3,400 local governments rings very hollow. What is very clear, however, from the dollar signs in everyone's eyes, is that at the same time governmental costs will rise, the cannabis industrial complex will be laughing all the way to the bank. So I just want to say, for every dollar that states that are legal receive in revenue, it costs them over $4 due to the effects legalization has had and the impact it has had on their communities, on their health care, on their law enforcement. We've been hit hard in Rockville Center with this. In the past month, we've lost 4 young people struggling with addiction, mental illness, that have used drugs to cope with their mental illness, and it did not end well for them. Marijuana impairs memory and learning. We all know that. Dropout rates are higher in states that are legal. I counsel kids that are caught in school with marijuana, and they know how bad it is, but they get hooked and they can't stop. Thank you for hopefully passing the moratorium and the law.
And I would just like to say, I don't know the circumstances of the young man's death, but I understand that last month you had an 18-year-old boy who committed suicide, and our condolences. And we are setting up this office so that there is a place where moms and dads and kids can call to get referred to the correct agency that they need to get their families healthy, mentally, physically, and addiction-free.
Thank you. And I'm working with Catholic Health Systems on 4 programs that are ongoing addressing addiction and mental health.
Well, I'm sure that our new counselor will be coordinating with you and that the Catholic Hospital Agency to make sure that we're able to get the information out on the services that you provide to your community.
Thank you for your
Ruth Ann, I just want to say a quick thank you for all that you do for Rockville Center and the surrounding communities. I know that you and I have worked together on a lot of events, whether it's Narcan training or opioid forums for both young and old. You've visited me in communities that are not very close to Rockville Center and brought people to kind of experience what we're offering. So I just want to say thank you for all you do for Rockville Center, for the town of Hempstead. It doesn't go unnoticed, so God bless.
And thank you for bringing your expertise in law enforcement to your job for the town of Hempstead. And thank you, Lori, for everything you do. And Erin Sweeney, we met your dad when we went to D.C., and he welcomed us with open arms, and we had some great conversations about this issue with him.
Great.
Thank you.
I know
Thank
the
you.
supervisor wants to say something. I'll jump in after her.
I just want to thank you and Liz for all the good work that you do. Obviously, you know I'm a member of the Rockville Center community, and unfortunately, my daughter was at the funeral for one of the young people that you described.
Yes.
And we want to do what we can to make sure that that doesn't happen
And his
more.
mom said to me when I paid my respects, just keep speaking out, keep stopping it. So we're going to keep doing it. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could just add, first of all, thank you for being, most importantly, thank you for being here today. And, you know, I mentioned before, I do have serious social justice concerns about this. I think they need to be addressed, but I think we need to separate those issues. And I think that your voice and people like you is what's so important. What is 100% clear to me, many people behind the legalization of pot are the same types of people who have been behind big tobacco and big alcohol. There's no doubt about that in my mind. So we need to almost separate these 2 issues. I don't know if financially we will ever be able to compete with big tobacco, big alcohol, and now pot. But people like you, other moms out there, whether it's Rockville Center, Wanto, Seaford, wherever it is, hopefully your loud voices can counteract the millions of dollars that unfortunately is being spent in Washington right now. It is atrocious what's going on by lobbying organizations and the companies like Juul, that they're spending millions of dollars hiring lobbyists and influencing politicians. And I would urge everyone in this room to find the money, look at the money, and vote those people out of office. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Arlene Walker.
Good afternoon, Supervisor, Council members.
Good morning. If you would just state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Arlene Walker. I live in West Hempstead. I am a member of Lakeview Council, and I just want to say that I do support your memorandum. However, I want to show you a short video of how drugs affected me.
I'm sorry, ma'am, you can't show us videos, but you can submit whatever you'd like and just tell us what's in the video.
Just for the council members to look at it. Can I do that?
This is your time to comment on the record, but if you'd like to submit a video, we'd be happy to take a look at it.
Can you give it that?
Can you email that to us?
Yeah, but I just want you to know that, yes,
In-
drug
instead-
dealers are getting...
May I make a suggestion? Instead of doing that, can you forward it to us? Because I'd like to see it.
I'd like to see it also, so if you forward.
Thank you, ma'am.
Drug dealers they are getting smarter. They're using block parties to sell their wares, the drug, the marijuana, the heroin, everything else. And I am a member of the minority community. And I've been a member of the minority community since I left Brownville, Brooklyn. And I know what marijuana, it is a step-up drug. And if we allow this to become legalized, your children, my grandchildren, and everybody in this room will be affected, okay? We don't want to go back. Just like the young lady said, we want to enhance our children for the future, not have them, like zombies, okay? So if we can pass this memorandum, that'd be a first step. Okay, that's all I have to say. But I will forward this movie because it caused so much damage, not only to my property, to the whole block. And I want to thank Senior Councilor Gooseby. At this time, she provided us public safety officers for this block party. But after they left, gunfire started. Somebody could have got shot. Okay, somebody couldn't get shot. And I want to thank you, Senior Councilwoman. But we need to do something about this. It's not getting better, it's getting worse. And like the previous...
Councilman D'Esposito.
He is a prior police officer in law enforcement. He knows that marijuana is a step-up drug. It's a step-up drug. So if you let your children experiment it now, then they're going to coat it with something, and then you're going to have heroin addicts, you're going to have cocaine addicts, you're going to have people like myself probably get knocked in the head, you get robbed, your house get robbed. So we need to do something about this. We need to keep this illegal drugs off our streets.
I would ask you to come to my office so we can have a conversation on this, especially your council, because you do good work over there, so we can see what we can do. Along with my colleague who was an officer, we work together and try to do something for you.
Ma'am, I have to ask, because that was my old stomping grounds. Where'd you live in Brownsville?
And right off Sutter Avenue and Stone.
Okay. Right by Langston Hughes' houses.
Yes, I was brought up there, so I know what's going on.
Very good.
I was able to pull myself out of that atmosphere, and now I'm living here. But if you legalize marijuana, I'm going to the South. And all these retirees are going with me.
God bless.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. And you can email that, and if you get a card, you can get one of our email addresses. We'll share it, so we can all say thank you. Liz Boylan.
Good afternoon. I just want to thank you for your vision and your foresight to put forth this moratorium, to put forth this local law. I support it, and I look forward to seeing it passed. I just want to say one thing. I find it offensive when people insult politicians, that they put the finger up to see which way the wind is blowing. We have to step into your shoes. You're here constantly. Yes, there are issues we agree with and issues we don't, but I think it's offensive to say that. That being said, as a member of the Rockville Center Coalition for Youth, we're fresh off a conference in Washington, D.C., Coalition's Anti-Drug Communities of America. For 29 years, they've been meeting to address the drug epidemic. Now it's legalization of marijuana. They educated us and gave us information on the tremendous issues and the debacle that this legalization has provided to the states. The revenue is not there. That is a smokescreen. There's just, by the time we're done, and in Governor Cuomo's office, you can call them, the net effect is going to be less, $83 million in 2021. As far as social justice goes, we met with, and you heard of Ms. Walker speak, this is a predatory industry that makes money on addictive behavior, not responsible behavior. We met with members of the minority community when we were in Washington. Yes, decriminalization is something that we are for. That is not legalization. The bill that Cuomo has put forth has to do with recreational sales of marijuana. It is not medicinal. That's a done deal. Recreational sales is not just recreational sales. It's advertising, distribution, warehousing, transportation, cultivation, home grows. California is experiencing explosions weekly because people decided that they will grow their own pot, then they take the residual pieces, stuff it into PVC pipes, and make this heavy THC concentrate, creating isobutane, causes explosions. So this miracle drug all of a sudden of marijuana, to me, is something that, unless it can bring people back from the dead, don't legalize pot. And regarding the young people we lost, one of those mothers embraced Ruth Ann McCormick at the wake. And she said, "You need to stop this, Ruth Ann. Stop the legalization. Well, if you hit me in the head with the 2x4, it would have been less painful." The pain etched on the faces of parents who have lost their children is enough for me to say, do not legalize another drug. Thank you for your foresight, and I think that you are on the right track.
Thank you for coming in, for being so well-spoken. You made brief mention about Governor Cuomo and the fact that he's permitting, among other things, the advertising. And I'm sure you have more details on it than I do, but from what I understand with Cuomo's proposal, there are actually no limits on the advertising. So not only is he allowing advertising, it is a free-for-all. I mean, if you think about nicotine and alcohol, there are actually, and there probably should be even further limits, but there are limits on it. But as far as I know, with pot, there are going to be no limits on advertising, which is unprecedented.
I just want to submit for the record, I just wrote some notes on here. I don't know with your language if it does include advertising, warehousing, distribution. We also have edibles that mimic children's candy, if I can just submit this. And just in case, so just to clarify, Governor Cuomo's law, in the law, which is here, 200 pages, okay, it gives municipalities the option to opt out of legalizing marijuana for populations over 100,000. This is not a waste of your time. You're given that option. It's in the law. I think that people are speaking, maybe looking at headlines, but they need to see what's in the law, and it is on the governor's website. So there are certain things. There is also a huge cannabis industrial complex that they are looking to locate somewhere in southern New York. We're southern New York, and I know as a resident of town of Hempstead in Nassau County, I would not like to see this huge industrial complex of cannabis here in Nassau County. This is what we're looking at. Also, for the parks, you go down to Point Lookout, Malibu, it's like an oasis here, okay? I don't want to smell pot on the beaches. My civil liberties are being violated because I no longer can have clean air to breathe. I cannot ever have drug-free highways, or drug-free communities. Where are my civil liberties? This is about commercialization. This is about a violation of our rights. This is about schools and educators and social workers. All these years have been saying drugs are bad. Our government is now saying, okay, now the perception of risk is decreased. Pregnant women are smoking pot. This is, it's backwards. And I'll say one other thing on a personal level. When I came back from Washington from this conference, Ruth Ann and I witnessed a flag-draped coffin of a soldier who had been killed, and his band of brothers was there welcoming that coffin off that plane. As God is my witness, I'm fighting this. And those soldiers and men and women that are over there, they're not fighting for a zombie nation. They're fighting for a country that my Italian father, who earned a Purple Heart in World War I, a country where there was opportunity, a way to raise your family. We'll never have a perfect place, but America is great. And New York was the Empire State. We will no longer be the Empire State if this is legalized. And I'm a mother of Marine, and thank you for listening.
Well, thank you. And just to add, can I say one real quick? And I think a lot of people want to say, and you're incredibly eloquent the way that you spoke, and thank you for being here.